I want to take this time to thank our viewing audience for your support on Real Talk with Jean Price. We have some exciting news. We are now going to be featured on YouTube as well as Facebook. We have had an opportunity to discuss debt cancellation, the pandemic. We've discussed depression, anxiety. We even discussed what it's going to be like to go back to school, how our restaurants going to fare. You don't want to miss what we have upcoming on Real Talk with Jean Price. So remember, join me on YouTube and Facebook with Real Talk with Jean Price every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. I'll see you soon on Real Talk with Jean Price.
And today I'd like to talk to you about something I call a prisoner's ambition. We're not animals. But sadly, due to some deeply rooted beliefs about prisoners, I'm forced to stand here and remind you of this. Why? Because I'm a state prisoner, an inmate, a convicted felon. You see, each one of these terms is attached to an assumption that I'm going to attack you or violate you in some way. As prisoners, we're automatically presumed to be less than civilized and so less than equal. Less than equal and so less than worthy. A segment of the population undeserving of your respect and basic human rights because we're considered less than human. Now, I know it sounds extreme, but how else can we account for society's clear lack of concern for the incarcerated and the formerly incarcerated alike? Example. In social, political, even media and entertainment circles, there are dehumanizing jokes levied against prisoners every day that go unchecked. Jokes like, don't drop the soap. Look out for Big Bubba. Ignorance. Since when is the rape or assault of any fellow human being funny? And more to the point, why are these jokes acceptable? Often the reason why these jokes are accepted in our society is because they're directed at a dehumanized minority.
Good evening. I read something today that really made me think. Today, roughly 2.2 million people are behind bars in the United States, an increase of 1 million since 1972. We have the world's largest prison population with 1/4 of its prisoners, but just 5% of the total population. Today, we're going to have a discussion on Real Talk that is so enlightening, but yet it's thought-provoking. Somebody out there needs to talk about what's going on with prison reform. Today, I have a wonderful guest with me, and we're going to talk about caged but not changed. Please welcome to Real Talk with Jean Price, Chef Colston. Thank you for being on Real Talk this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it is my pleasure to have you on the show to talk about something that is just so profound. You know, President Joe Biden, who just went into office, just announced that he will not be renewing the government contracts for private prisons. Can we kind of talk about? Tell me a little bit about your story.
Oh, wow. Unfortunately, I am one of those young men who's been on the other side of the wall, as they say, for people that's been in that situation. I did 5 years. First felony ever. I did 5 years. Came home and did 5 years on post supervision, which is something they got, the state jails got from the federal jails. And the crazy thing about that is with that 5 years, it really, when you look at it, the bigger picture, I really did 10 years. I violated on the post release supervision, then the time that I spent on it would have stopped, and then I'd have served the rest of that time in the prison. So they really gave me a 10-year sentence. Yeah. Um, so of course, hearing that news with President Biden was amazing. It was amazing. Because here's the thing, and I may kind of be rushing it a little bit. So I'm actually gonna pull back a little bit. But I came home. I did the 5 years. I came home in 2010, March 31st, 2010. One of the first things that I did was I went to school to be a substance abuse counselor. That was one of the first things I did, because my personal belief was, um, as someone that I grew up in church all my life. My mom's made sure we was at church every service. So I grew up in church all of my life. Um, and so sometimes when God sits you down in those situations, you have an epiphany.
Yeah.
Um, and as someone who sold drugs, I felt that it was my duty to clean up some of the mess that I helped create. So that's why I went and I became a substance abuse counselor. I went to school for it. And then my next thing was, I became a chef.
Wow.
And so now, mind you, these are avenues that you really don't think about because the rehabilitation aspect, um, of going to prison is not there like it once was.
Right. Right.
So you have to kind of think outside of the box and what you can do, because once you have the video, I was listening to the video that played and the young man was speaking. And so once you have all these negative connotations attached to your name, it's extremely hard to get a regular 9 to 5.
Yes, sir.
It's extremely hard. So you do the time behind the wall, but then you come home and then you do the time again in the streets, because it's almost impossible for you to get a job, because there's all these different stipulations, and you have to be bonded, and maybe you can get a certificate of relief. Um, where you get bonded, and maybe you can get a job as long as it has nothing to do with whatever crime it was that you committed.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then that's a 50-50 thing. Um, and everybody, not everyone has that strong mindset
Yes.
to keep pushing. We're creatures of habit. So when things don't work out the way that we wanted, we often revert back to what we did before.
You know,
Yeah.
that's where I was going to go, Chef. I wanted to talk. I want to go deep about your mindset because I know someone, Chef, that's been in the exact same predicament you were in, served the same time you served. What did you do in your mindset while you were in there that allowed you the ability to move forward when you came out?
I remember, um, so as I was in the county and waiting to go, um, to prison, it was chaotic. It was just chaotic. And um, at some point in time, you have to realize this is not conducive to what you're really trying to do. And what you're trying to do is to get home
Mhm.
to your family. So once I got out of state, I was able to, get permission to write prison to prison. And my older brother, my oldest brother, who's home, praise God, he did 28 years, and he home, and he works at the hospital. um, and one of the things he told me when we was writing each other, he was like, "Listen, do the time, don't let the time do you."
Wow.
So when he told me that, that really changed my mindset. Um, and then I began to get into all these different programs that were available. Like I was taking courses in HIV and AIDS. Um, uh, Instead of trying to get a job in the kitchen or get a job with outside clearance, so I can be outside cutting grass around the prison or whatever. Um, I got a job in the school building, and with that job, I taught, a program called ART, Aggression Replacement Training, which is a program for people who have violent felonies, It's an anger management program that they have to take and complete in order to even be considered for their CR date, which is their conditional release date, or for them to go to the board and for them to see the board and they decide whether or not they're eligible to go home. And so with that, it gave me a sense of what was out there,
Yes.
because a lot of times we get in there and then that becomes our world, that place becomes our world, and then we kind of forget that there is a whole life outside of the prison walls.
Right.
And so that was my mindset after my brother told me that was my mindset. And I read everything I can get my hands on. Anything positive I participated in. um, and I just made up in my mind that this situation will not define who I am.
I want to go a little deep, Chef. I want to talk about the exploitation of labor. Again, I know someone that was in your same predicament and he was making little to nothing, but they take that kind of labor and is used, the government uses it, it comes off like slave labor. Have you experienced that? Like, what was that like? People talk about that, or they talk about don't drop the soap and different things like that. Like, what was it like as far as from that perspective?
Um, to be honest, man, because it's an unnatural habitat, you know, um, to be in a space, whether you're on tiers like you see in the movies, or whether you're in dorms, um, you being around 60 men day in and day out is that's a stress.
Yeah.
That's a stress within itself. And you cannot bother anybody and still get on somebody's bad side, depending on how bad they day was.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's walking on eggshells on a daily basis. Um, as far as the labor, I made for what I told you what I did. I made 25 cents an hour, and I was a major component in a lot of brothers going home and being back with their parents,
Hmm.
and or their children or their wives. And I made 25 cents an hour. Um, when you really think about it, I'm from Nassau County. I'm from Long Island. And so most people who ever went to visit somebody, and then the jumpsuits that they wear in there, those are made through prison labor,
Yes.
through ex-Governor Pataki's company. So Governor Pataki made those jumpsuits. He made the little Chinese movie shoes that they wear in there. Um, Coldcraft, which is a company that makes soap and all of these different products, that's prison labor. So uh, the adopt a mile, where you see people, upstate New York, they're cleaning up the sides of the roads and everything. That's prison labor. Um, and so let's just call it what it is. We call it spade a spade. Is modern day slavery.
Right.
Um, they just give you a couple of pennies.
And what's so interesting to what you're saying, Chef, is that the government takes that slave labor, to your point. You do see them on the side of the road and they're cleaning up things. But then when you go out, as you stated earlier, then you can't find a job. So you're
Yeah.
working, but then there's no job once you get out. That has to do something to the mindset of a man. Now, I'm not excusing any behavior of anybody with condoning what anybody has done. That's not our point in what we're talking about today. What
Right.
we're talking about is what happens to the black man, or what happens to the man when you're in there. And I like what Patrick said, and this is actually good for you to hear, Chef. Patrick said that that's a tough deal, but you're still blessed, King. Glad you stay positive, and I admire that. And that's awesome, Chef, because here it is another man who's looking or hearing your story, but yet it has such admiration to it. So then when brothers come out of prison, because again, I know people that have, they're really struggling getting to find a job. You gotta fill out an application, right? Then they do a background check. So you
Yeah.
can't lie on the application because on the background check, right, they're going to find
Right.
out that you were convicted of a crime. So how do we help our brothers that come out? They go from that slave mentality from inside, going what? Back into the streets. And I want to bring this up and I want to dialogue a little more because someone told me a long time ago, they called it the revolving door.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
revolving door. Just like that. It swings in, it comes right back around.
Yeah. Before I even went upstate and I was in a county jail, I seen a couple of brothers that was in the same dorm as me
Mm-hmm.
come in 2-3 times while I was still there. So recidivism is major. Recidivism is major. But okay, let's unpack some stuff, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's unpack some stuff.
Yes.
So when you talk about rehabilitation, because this is what they say, prison is to reform, is to rehabilitate the person so that they can become a productive member of society.
Yes.
But the deck is already stacked against them. The deck is stacked against them. But here's the thing, right? And this is what our young brothers don't realize. They begin to notate everything that you do from grade school. That follows you. Your behavioral pattern follows you
Wow.
all the way to, God forbid, you're in that situation. And then they do their pre-trial, and then they get all this information from when you was back in, kindergarten, third grade,
Mm.
your behavioral thing. So it follows you all the way
Wow.
there. And then whatever you do while you're in the situation, it follows you there. So from the county to the state penitentiary to the federal penitentiary, if it goes that far. And now we got to understand a lot of these jails are privately funded,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Privately funded. So you're looking at, I was in a place called Orleans County. I was across the street from Albion, the women's prison where Remy Ma was at.
Okay.
She was across the street from me. So they have dorms A through F, right? So you're looking at, well, A through G. So you're looking at eight dorms, right? With an A and a B side, with 60 men in each.
Wow.
Right? So just using the number 7, right?
Yes.
60 men in each. So you're looking at 120 men per housing unit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is 840 people. 840 people that the jail is getting paid $150 a day per head.
Wow.
Which means per year it's 54,000 and some change that they're making per head.
Per head.
Right.
Mm.
So now private prisons today, they're about 128,000 men and women in private prisons. And when you do that math times the 128,000, that's $7 trillion they're making a year.
That's incredible. Incredible.
Yet for $7 trillion, yet the brothers and sisters that unfortunately that had to carry this burden
Mm-hmm.
with all these labels can't get a job.
Yes.
We gotta fight and scream and kick and yell and plead for raises because minimum wage don't want to go up. They're crying about minimum wage going up, but the price of everything else is going up. Housing is going up. Food is going up. Doctor bills is going up. Everything that you need to survive is going up, but your pay is not going up.
That's right.
Right? And so you have all these different things that you have to wrestle with. Now, and then men, we have to deal with toxic masculinity.
Now you can elaborate on that. Yeah, elaborate with that one.
And what toxic masculinity tells us is that you have to make money by any means necessary because money is what makes you a man. How many women you bed is what makes you a man,
Mm,
right?
yes.
And so this is what we're fed day in and day out, whether it's by relatives, whether it's by movies we watch, whether it's by the music videos that we watch. This is what we're fed day in and day out. So now you have these young brothers of color doing anything to make a buck. You have our sisters, our young sisters out here degrading themselves and doing whatever they can to make a buck because this is what they're telling us that this is what manhoods look like.
Mm,
And so now because this kind of behavior and this kind of logic and this kind of conversation has made men so much more aggressive that now the system had to make the women more aggressive to keep up with the men.
That's so interesting you said that, Chef, because you do find sometimes that women, and again, I am a woman, but you do find that the stigma, I should say, that the society and the government and the world has put on men and women. And as I'm sitting here listening to you talk about that, when I think about it, listen, look at the mindset that's been infiltrated there. Like you said, this is what you have to do, or this is who you have to become to be the man that you need to be. But then with that mindset and the aggression, look where a lot of men, our black and brown men, wind up in prison because of that kind of mindset. Or to your point, our black women degrading themselves, they accept what the society tells them, and look at how we wind up. If it had not been for, and I have to thank God for what he did in my life, I don't even know where I would have been because I grew up without a father. But to your point, the mindset was that you have to do this, you have to do that. So it's so, what it's so debilitating to have that kind of mindset. So then, as you said, you're followed all the way up to only throw you back into a society that you can't function in.
Right, right. But here's the thing, though. What it takes a situation
Hmm.
um, in order to make you realize that society as a whole is not even functional.
Yes. Wow.
You know,
Yes.
um,
Yes, sir.
and that situation really is a humbling. It is a humbling. Um, and to be honest, so when I was in there, and like I said, it was my first time. Never been to jail, never been to prison. Um, unfortunately, I've had a lot of family members to go.
Okay.
Um, but I was in there, and it wasn't so much as I had a hard sentence.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's not like I had, you know, like I didn't have a whole lot of different situations going on. I saw a lot.
Okay.
I saw a lot. Um, but that humbling piece, when you actually use that time in prison,
Mhm.
um, for what God wants you to use it for, which is to sit down and hear Him,
Come on. Yeah.
then you begin to see things differently.
Okay.
Um, and as I was in there, I can honestly say, out of doing 5 years and some change, um, God has surrounded me with some brothers. I didn't know these brothers from a hole in the ground, but surrounded me with some brothers that refused to let me get in any trouble. So and for us, for people who's been in there and you were like, oh yeah, I did 5 years in your mind because you're in the situation and that situation is so toxic, it makes you think that that's a little bit of time. But 5 years is a long time.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
5 years is a long time.
is. Hmm.
And so out of that length of time, I only had two fights.
Wow.
I had two fights. Uh, First fight was my co-defendant. Uh, Second fight is when I was upstate and I was in prison. Um, and I only had those two fights, but God like surrounded me with these brothers where like they would make me like stay on my bunk if something was getting ready to happen. Like, nah, you go over there, you got to go home. Like, and that's how it was.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And it was so crazy because the whole time I was up there, I would hear God say, "Why are you worried? Why are you worried?" And so I'd be like, "Man, what you talking about? I'm in prison. Like, what you mean? Why I'm worried?" But like it every time, like if something really, really, really crazy was gonna happen, I wind up going to the box for anything, for anything. So the prison I was in, they had a ticket system, a tier 1 ticket, tier 2 ticket, tier 3 ticket. I I got one tier 1 ticket. You know, the tier 1 ticket, you lost a rec, you can't go to rec for like a week or whatever.
Okay.
Everything else was tier 3s. I was going to the box, like left and right. I stayed in the box. And it and the main thing was too is because I refused to carry myself a certain way.
Okay.
I'm already in prison. I'm paying for my crime. I didn't do what I'm locked up for, but I'm paying for it.
Yes, sir.
I didn't physically do it, but I did it because I allowed myself to hang around with those people. So I put myself in that situation.
Right.
All right. But I'm already paying for it. So I'm not gonna walk with my head down for what? My mother, she ain't never teach me to walk around like that. So I'm not gonna do it. And because I didn't do it, that caused me a lot of problems. Like to be honest, I was a little crass when I was in prison. And I remember when Obama, I was still in prison when he got elected, and we was going into the dining hall, the mess hall, and there was a CEO. Every black or brown brother that walked by, he would say Obama, Obama,
Mhm.
Obama. And that day was just one of those days. It was just one of those hard days for me.
Right.
And he said it to me, and I said cracker, and then I went right to the box. But here's the thing: it's so much stuff happened while I was in the box. So much stuff happened that it was a blessing that I was in the box.
Wow.
But then the box is it's a whole different experience by itself, because where the prison I was at, we had two different boxes. They call it the SHU, is the Special Housing Unit.
Okay.
So they have a smaller one for, you get a tier 3 ticket. It's nothing major. You're gonna do 45 days or something. You can go in there. Then they have the SHU 200, which is double occupancy. So you got two brothers in a cell who's probably in there because either they cut somebody, killed somebody while they was in prison. And so you got these two angry individuals locked in a cell in a cage together, which is not gonna is the only thing it's gonna do is breed more violence.
Exactly.
Um and so but that's what they do. They put you in those situations
Yeah.
so that again
Yes.
you can stay and then we can get some more in.
Right. We're gonna take a commercial break, but Chef, I tell you, just hearing your story and hearing what you had to do to survive, God is so strategic in how he does things. I tell you, it just, I'm not surprised as you were talking about it, how it seemed one way, but it was really for your good. It was really for your good. We're going to come back, Chef, and I want to go a little deeper and I want to really hone in on and talk about cage but not change, or there's no change in it. And Patrick had mentioned that he was stationed at the Pentagon where he would get military equipment and they were made by prisoners. And he said the equipment that was received was from different prisons. Prison labor is truly real. And to your
Real.
point, Chef, having that revolving door and having people go in and go out is so that this prison labor can continue. So we're gonna take a commercial, Chef. We'll be right back. Listen, our viewing audience, this is such a serious topic to talk about. And I'm so glad that we have somebody that went through the system and stayed on the other side. We'll be right back after this commercial break. We couldn't have planned Real Talk to be the way that it is. When God dropped that in my heart, I knew there was something of greater substance that was going to come forth from it. I had no idea on the first time we promoted, we had over 2,000 views, like off, like out of nowhere, to the point I was really, really surprised. But on the other side of it, the discussions of being able to be honest about how we've been feeling in the pandemic, how you feel about debt, how you feel about what's going on in the world with restaurants and anxiety, really being able to talk about honest, truthful things, man, this has been a way to go.
And today I'd like to talk to you about something I call a prisoner's ambition. We're not animals. But sadly, due to some deeply rooted beliefs about prisoners, I'm forced to stand here and remind you of this. Why? Because I'm a state prisoner, an inmate, a convicted felon. You see, each one of these terms is attached to an assumption that I'm going to attack you or violate you in some way. As prisoners, we're automatically presumed to be less than civilized and so less than equal. Less than equal and so less than worthy. A segment of the population undeserving of your respect and basic human rights because we're considered less than human. Now, I know it sounds extreme, but how else can we account for society's clear lack of concern for the incarcerated and the formerly incarcerated alike? Example, in social, political, even media and entertainment circles, there are dehumanizing jokes levied against prisoners every day that go unchecked. Jokes like, don't drop the soap. Look out for Big Bubba. Ignorance. Since when is the rape or assault of any fellow human being funny? And more to the point, why are these jokes acceptable? Often the reason why these jokes are accepted in our society is because they're directed at a dehumanized minority.
Good evening. Welcome back to Real Talk with Jean Price. I'm excited to have my guest with me tonight, Chef Colston, and we've been talking about caged but not change. And this has been a great discussion. Welcome back again, Chef, for being on Real Talk with Jean Price. I'm excited that you're here. I want to go back. I was just watching that video again, and Chef, what stuck out in my head is that prison is considered less than human. Why is it, since you've the opportunity, not by choice, of course, to be in the system, but why are prisoners considered not human? And I like what that video showed because they make jokes about being assaulted. But guess what? Out on the street, no one would dare come up to you and make a joke about being assaulted or raped in the prison system. Why is that?
Ah, man. So they treat you like animals. They treat you like animals. From the time you enter into that system, they treat you like animals. They chain you together with someone else, hands and feet shackled. The same way someone would yoke oxen together.
Yes.
Or yoke horses together. So they treat you like animals. They brand you. They don't physically brand you like they do cattle, but they brand you. They give you a number. They give you a number. So you don't. I'm Charles or Rock or to or my bro or whoever, to people who know me outside of that, but inside of the prison, I was inmate 07A 4218.
That is so true, sir. Yeah, yeah. That's true.
They feed you like animals.
Mm-hmm.
So everything they do, they treat you like animals. And if they can get away with it, they will beat you like animals. So unfortunately, it's no different than what happened to our ancestors who were slaves. Nothing has changed, but
Mm,
the name,
but
but the name. Back then it was called slavery. Now it's called prisoner, but it's the same. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. You have overseers, you have trustees who are buddy buddy with the COs and tell everything, just so they can get whatever extras they can get.
mm-hmm.
An outside meal, cigarettes, packs of Newports, whatever they can get.
Yes.
Whatever contraband, weed, whatever drug they can get in. Um, and that's what they do to make sure that they're good. And and let's be honest, a lot of the brothers, that's how they behave. That's
Mm,
how they behave. They behave. You, especially brothers who doesn't have the mental stability
right.
to say that I'm more than just this.
Yes. Yes.
Those brothers are the ones that susceptible to having that animal mentality, and so they become savages. You know what I mean? And it's a heartbreaking thing to see.
It has to be. Yeah.
It's a heartbreaking thing to see.
Yeah.
Um, when you can have a conversation with a brother in there, and you can see so much more in them than they see in their self, and then you gotta account for all the brothers that done had mental breakdowns. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Because I've been, like I said, I've been in the shoe, in the prisons, out here in Nassau County, in the county jail. Their shoe is called BMU, Behavior Modification Unit. Um, and when you get into those situations, they treat you worse than they treat you when you're in the population because no one can see it.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah.
you get in there and you can only take a shower once a week, and they can give you mail if they want to give you your mail. They can feed you if they desire to feed you that day. If not, oh well. They can let you out to go. Uh, and here's the thing: when you go out for recreation in the population, you actually get to go outside, in what they call the yard.
Right. Right.
But when you're in BMU in the county or you're in the SHU in prison, then your outside rec is in a cage.
So then it goes, Chef. So then it goes exactly to what you're saying.
Yeah,
You're really treated like an animal.
yeah.
So here it is, a person treated like an animal, Chef. Think of the mindset that that person has when they come out, like that kind of mindset. How does I'm so intrigued by this, because how does that mindset, Angela says it's difficult to discuss, it even more difficult to handle when you live in it, as the person going through or the person home waiting. So to your point, Chef, okay, let's use this, that that animal mindset, being treated like you're nothing, then you're put into a society where you have to function, where you have to go back, right? You have a family, you may have a wife, you may have children. How does a mind transform? How does that cage mind go from that to understanding? It's hard to transition, to me, it would be, to freedom.
It's extremely hard. You got to think about it. Everything you do in society or
And
every relationship that you build begins on one foundation, and that foundation is trust.
come on, yes.
So you're leaving an environment where you can't trust anyone to come to an environment where you have to trust people.
Mm,
You know, when I first came home, it took me the longest to be able to take a shower without putting slippers on, because you got to go in the shower with some kind of shoes on your feet. One, to protect your feet, but two, you need to have something on your feet because bare feet in water, you're gonna slip and slide everywhere. Anything can happen at any given moment. So it took the longest for me to even shower with my back to the door.
okay, Okay.
because in prison I shower with my back to the wall
The wall.
and the shower coming this way so I can see everything.
Yes, sir. Right.
And if I had to wash my hair, I had to do it like this
Mm-hmm.
so I can see. And so this is why you have brothers and sisters that come out of there who have anxiety,
Yes.
all
Yes.
kind of anxiety and all kind of mental issues, um,
Mm.
and that they don't they don't try to help with or assist with, but they're quick to put you in a drug program. I had to take a drug program. I'm like, yo, I don't even use drugs, but I had to take a drug program,
Mm.
and they make you take that program or they violate you. So you're gonna take the program and you're gonna deal with somebody talking about something that they don't know what they're talking about,
Yes.
just in order for you not to go back to that situation. And so it's all these different things. Showering with your underclothes on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's all these little things that you have to be mindful of
Yeah.
when you come home because you spent so many years doing it that way. And then you have to build trust. And of course, they say that when you go to prison, your family goes with you. And a lot of families, they're hard on a person when they come home. They're extremely hard on them. But it's like, listen, you don't know.
Mm.
You know what I mean? You ain't go to sleep last night wondering if the person sleeping next to you gonna wake up and just stab you.
Mm.
You know what I mean? You didn't go to sleep and was woke up because somebody was getting violated.
And see, and that's why I'm thinking again for being on the show to talk about that because prisoners are treated like they're not human, and we're not again condoning what somebody does, but at the end of the day, you're human. You there's it's not it's wrong to treat anybody, chef, like they're an animal at the end of the day. And someone else, like I told you, I know that came home from prison. One of the things that he faced a lot was, and one of our viewing audiences mentioned it, was a lot of, and you said it, to anxiety, to the point every time it took years for the person's hands to stop shaking. Literally, it took years. Took years for the person to understand that they can relax. Took years off. PTSD, we talk about it when it comes to the those that are in the military, but I would dare say that, chef, PTSD, come on, sir, it also comes out of people that are coming out of prison. How they have to I said it, put themselves back into society with so many things. Like you said, you're used to taking a shower this way, you're used to taking a shower with your clothes on, all that mental anguish.
Listen, it's not an ordinary thing to be in the bathroom brushing your teeth in the morning and see somebody get their face cut open to where you can see their teeth and their gums through their cheek.
Oh,
Like that's not, you know what I mean?
yes.
And so you see those wild things, but then you also see things like brothers getting ready to go home and then they pass away in the prison. I've seen that twice. I seen a brother. We was in the gym playing basketball. 2 weeks he was getting ready to go home.
Mm,
Passed out in the gym, had a heart attack, died.
Jesus.
I seen it with one of my own brothers. 81 days to come home. We get a call. Had to drive back upstate. My brother died in the hospital.
Oh, Jesus.
So you see these things on a regular basis, and like I said, 5 years is a long time. A year is a long time.
Yes, sir.
That's a long time to see these kind of things day in and day out.
Yes.
And then what we call a good day, you may look at us and be like, that was a good day for you. Yeah, it was a good day.
Yes. Yes.
you know, and it's so wild in there because there is no rehabilitation. So GED programs, college courses, all those things are removed. All those things are removed. They had some trades while I was still there. I know I took and passed welding while I was in there. Um, and that was dual purpose though. Welding was because on one hand, my family in Alabama, a lot of them weld, so it was a good trade to have.
Hmm.
Two, it was just in case I ever needed a shank because it get like that.
Got it. Understood.
It get like that, and it don't matter how cool you are. It's a situation where anybody can get it at any given moment. You know what I mean? And so we had they at one point they were allowing us to take courses for FEMA and get certifications through FEMA. And I think, at that point, I think it was so many brothers, especially a lot of brothers that was coming through the aggression replacement training class. Um, well, I was just talking to them, telling them like, "Yo, bro, it's so much more you can do besides, you know." And and so a lot of guys was taking these courses. They shut it down. They
Mm,
shut it down. So they claim that they want you. You know what I mean?
yes,
To be rehabilitated,
but it's not. Mm.
but they don't give you the tools to be rehabilitated.
And you know what's so sad about that, Chef? Because they don't give you the tools, you wind up finding yourself, and that's why I mentioned earlier about the revolving door, because some men and or women find themselves going back because they weren't even given the tools to keep it going or to even get something within themselves. And it's so sad. And from a person, thank God, has never experienced that of being a person that's gone to prison, it's so sad from the outside looking in. It is so sad from the outside looking in. And we are so grateful tonight that God's hand of protection, sir, was on you.
Yeah, yeah. I am.
Mm,
I'm grateful.
wow.
I'm so grateful.
Yes, sir.
Um, and God has been there. Like He was there through the entire experience. Um, One time I came home. After I came home, I had been trying to get a job, wasn't getting a job. I was putting in like 20, 30 applications a week, wasn't getting a job. And so a friend of mine was like, "Yo, man, you should try this." I was like, "Nah." After a year go by, you like, "All right, well, I might as well. Ain't nothing else happening." I wound up getting in a car accident.
Mhm.
Somebody hit me, T-boned me, and God spared my life from that. But then that was a wake up call for me. And I remember I was in the county because I went to court for it, and then they just remanded me. And so I was in there. I was getting checked out by the doctor, and I promise you, I can't remember this man's face.
Okay.
Like every time I think about it, and I see the doctor office, I see the doctor, but his face is just a light.
Mm.
And I was sitting on the bed, and he had his back turned to me, and he was almost finished, and he was like, "So you think you going home?" I was like, "Man, I'm in here with you. I ain't going home." Right? And he said, "Well, you believe in Jesus?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And he said, "Well," he said, "You going home?" I'm like, "Yeah, all right." They called me up, took me upstairs. I came upstairs. Now these are the tears, and I walked into the bubble. The dude called my name. He was like, "Walk out there to the officer. He's gonna put you in the cell." The officer was putting someone else in the cell. So as I walked up to him, he was like, "Hey, what you doing? Get back in there." I was like, "He told me to come out. Get back in there." I was like, "All right." So I walked back into the bubble. By the time I made it back into the bubble, the guy says, "You're Charles Colson?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Here." He gave me this yellow slip of paper. And I'm like, "What's this?" He
Mm.
said, "You made bail." And just as fast as I walked up there, I turned around and I walked right back out.
Wow.
And that at that point in time, that's when I realized myself, because there comes a point in time where you have to
Mm-hmm.
realize it and start making some tough decisions.
Yes.
And a tough decision for me is something that I told my little brother when he was in Rikers Island. I said, would you rather live uncomfortably
Mm.
or die comfortably? And so at that point in time, that was a moment for me to make a hard decision that I'd rather be uncomfortable in this life than to continue living like this and then die in this manner.
Wow.
And so and then that's when the major change began to happen for me, and I began to take God seriously
Amen.
because he's been taking me seriously. So now it's time for me to take him seriously.
That's powerful. And thank you for saying that, Chef, because I like ending on that note with the show because the show is entitled Caged, but Not Changed. I would dare say you were caged and you were changed.
Amen.
And we salute you today for your testimony. We salute you. We salute you for just your ability to be a witness to other people, those that are watching, those that are hearing, that God can truly make that difference in your life. And we're grateful that you survived it
Amen.
inside and out, inside and out, inside and out. So I just want to thank you again to our viewing audience. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Talk with Jean Price, because this right here was Real Talk, talking about what it was like to be in, but now you're out. And I know we all know somebody that has had that experience of being in prison, but I'm grateful tonight for Chef Colston because his mind came out of prison as well. His mind. So it wasn't just your physical body, sir. It was also your mind. So thank you so much. Chrissy said, when you have had someone in there, you live it. When you have had someone in there, you live it with them. Thank you, Chrissy. Helpless, calling, and dependent on Jesus. So it's true. So thank you, Chef. Thank you, callers. Excellent, relevant, real. Thank you, callers. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. And listen, keep us posted about what you're doing out there, Chef. Keep us
Yeah,
posted.
right now I'm working on a food truck. It's gonna be really awesome. Um,
Okay.
I'm working on writing a book right now. Um, called Adam, Where Art Thou? So I prayerfully I'll be finished with that soon. As you see the sign behind me, I'm in the Rise Up Worldwide studio. I do a podcast every Tuesday night,
Okay.
Christian hip hop show, and we do a lot of interviews and discuss a lot of different topics. Yeah, so I am doing some things. God is moving. I'm expecting this year to be, exceedingly and abundantly
Ah,
than I can actually even think this year. So
that's awesome.
social media. Um, Chef Rock 516 on Facebook, on Instagram. Check me out.
Yeah, listen, check him out. He's got some good stuff going on. And listen, when that book comes out, we want you to come back and share with us. We would love to hear what God
Yes,
has given you, because I like when God downloads stuff in people, because we really get to see the revelation of it. And that's what I want to talk to you about, the revelation of that book. That's going to be powerful.
absolutely,
Please.
absolutely.
Guys, listen, I really personally want to thank Chef Colston for being on the show tonight. He came out. He is no longer caged. His mind is out. His heart is out. He is out. So tonight, thank you so much for joining me on Real Talk with Jean Price. Chef Colston, we thank you again for being with us. Good night.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate it. Good
Yes,
night. Love y'all.
love you guys.